It's the Women's Information Network. It's the win.
Hey everyone, I want to welcome you to Epic Living TV. I'm Dr. Pat. I'm the host of the Dr. Pat Show and also the founder of Transformation Talk Radio. We're doing something new live from the floor of one of the largest women's shows in the Pacific Northwest. Well, practically, I think this is a pretty big women's show just in general. We're thrilled to be doing this. We get to interview a number of people that are living epic lives and helping others do the same. Dr. Jennifer Berg is joining me here today. We're going to be talking about something that is fascinating to me because many of us don't really understand, especially women. We don't really understand the misunderstanding around our thyroid and modern women. And the reason that this is important to actually talk about this is that for a long period of time, many of us suffered with all sorts of things going on in our lives, in our bodies. You're too tired. You're too active. You gain weight. You do this. Go find somebody that can administer T3. What is T3? Who knows? But today we're going to talk a little bit about that, about the journey that Dr. Berg has gone on to help many, many people around the globe understand this. Thanks for joining me here today.
Thank you for having me.
It's great to have you here. So I want to ask you a question.
Yeah.
You know, you've decided to go down the path of medicine, holistic medicine.
Yeah.
One of the fastest growing fields right now, to study natural medicine, to be a naturopath, to be a graduate of one of the most prestigious schools we have for at Baccili University. I wanted to know from you, how did you get pointed in that direction? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like, did you grow up? People think, my naturopath's very funny. She said, you know, people think we grow up on some farm and grow herbs, and that's how we got here.
Yep. No,
Is that you?
No, no, not so much. Actually, I grew up in a really conservative family. I think my family wasn't even introduced to alternative medicine until I decided to do it myself. But I actually, in my undergraduate training in San Diego, I wanted to become a pharmacist, and that was my goal.
Yes.
And I was really into chemistry and biology, and so when I started learning a little bit about it and about medicine, they taught me that, you know, we make pharmaceuticals to treat symptoms. And, you know, I wanted to create pharmaceuticals, be a part of a lab, and it was really, I don't know, it didn't really jive well with me. I didn't want to just make drugs to make people feel better temporarily. And so I think that it steered me away from more conventional medicine and into alternative medicine because I wanted to help people from their core, from their foundation, to make a healthier body that could support itself, because the body cures itself. And if we can support that, then we don't need medications. We only need them to help us get by in the meantime. To have a healthier life.
Don't you find it's interesting? Don't you find it's interesting that we're referring to this form of medicine? This is what I find fascinating, curious, and annoying, all in the same time. That we're talking about medicine and a practice of medicine that goes back to the early stages of man and mankind. And so part of this is when we think about our lives and we think about how we're living, we've now come full circle where what? We're calling this alternative when 100 years ago we weren't. Can you shed a little light on that? And are we ready to bring this natural medicine back now?
Yeah, it is really interesting that you bring this up, because it's challenging. We've had for so long. I do acupuncture as well as naturopathic medicine, and so it's really interesting that we've had this medicine that's been proven over generations that people get much better, but we've strayed away, and I think some of that has to do with the development of antibiotics. We don't, we can cure simple diseases through medications, and that kind of skyrocketed, and now we can treat all sorts of diseases with medications, but our goal is not in line with how it should have been or what it was originally. We've lost sight of our own abilities to really connect with ourselves and our bodies, and to say, oh, well, I don't feel right. I want to get better. I don't just want to mask my symptoms. I want to get better. And I think we're headed in that direction. We just lost it for a little bit, and now we're coming back.
Well, one of the things that I mentioned earlier is that, we're now talking about thyroid. And I want to talk with you about that, because my journey into health and come down with the mystery disease in 2004, I have to call it that, because even to this day, I'm not going to come to see you and you're not going to really do a diagnosis on me. You're going to look at the layers and get at what's going on. So I like to call it that. But it was really interesting that a message from the angel lady said to me, I should go look for a naturopath that administers T3. Now, I have to tell you, I didn't even know what T3 was, but it led me on a journey to just see we are not talking about the thyroid in the way that women need to hear it. What has your journey been like? Why has this become important to you?
Well, the thyroid is especially important to me because a couple years back, I was diagnosed with thyroid cancer, and it was really challenging because I feel like myself, like many women, especially in our society, we work so hard and we do so many things that I'm a naturopathic doctor, and I teach people to listen to their bodies, and I wasn't doing that for myself.
Yeah.
And it's with the thyroid, it's one of those things where it's the everyday symptoms that we just kind of bypass, the things that we don't really think about. It's being tired all the time.
Right.
Having our hair get thinner. You're like, oh, we're just getting older, but your hair shouldn't be thinning. And it's gaining weight or losing too much weight.
Right.
Exactly.
That too. Right.
And it's really tricky. And so a lot of times we'll say, okay, well, we're too busy working, or we're too busy going to school, or we're too busy taking care of our family, or we're too busy doing all these other things. We forget to really take time for ourselves and to keep track of that. And so with my diagnosis, it really shook me. I was like, wow, I need to really start practicing what I preach. I need to inspire women to say, you don't have to be tired every day just because you work 70 hours a week. You don't have to feel like you can't get up in the morning. You don't have to be anxious all the time. You don't have to be stressed out or have troubles with, your digestion or other issues like that. You can help figure out what's going on there. So
yeah, well, it's interesting because I'm hearing this more often, and I really wanted to talk with you about it. I am surrounded by women of all ages. I'm not talking about it. It's fascinating because I think for a bit we associated thyroid cancer in women to older women.
Yeah.
All right. And now, not so much. Part of this is just getting to the place where we're looking at what's showing up and why it's showing up. As a matter of fact, the woman that actually booked you for this has had thyroid issues herself. And many, many conversations. Do you do a biopsy? What happens when you have nodules? I want you to take us on a journey, if you will, of what women should be mindful about. What should they look for? What kinds of questions should they ask?
Yeah, definitely. So there's so many things that can happen, and with thyroid, it can be tricky because the thyroid affects almost every cell in our body.
Yeah.
It is our metabolism hormone, and I think that we're just now starting to learn more about that. And before it was like, okay, well, it just kind of does a little bit here, a little bit there, but no, there are receptors for thyroid hormones in almost all of our cells. So, there are things that people before thought weren't a big deal, but now are becoming a big deal. The biggest is fatigue. So being really, really tired all the time. Or the muscle weakness is a big one. If we have pain or muscle weakness, changes in our vision. It might be small things that we think are just,
right, exactly,
coming on with age, or,
right.
We're just working too much. It's that stuff. It's like, okay, well, I'm just going to get glasses, or I'm just going to drink more coffee in the morning, or those types of things we really need to pay attention to, is that we can have unlimited, unbounding energy and feel good about ourselves every day and be really healthy and not have to just kind of deal with some of that underlying stuff.
So, what's interesting about this is, there are things that may happen that would tip you off.
Mhm.
I mean, some of the things you mentioned. Some women have growth developments or polyps. What are they called?
Cysts,
Something
usually
on there.
cysts.
Yeah.
Yep.
And go to a doctor, and the doctor says, well, guess what? You got to like 30 centimeter this or that
Yeah.
or the other thing. But don't worry, if it's cancer, it's good. It's thyroid
Yeah.
cancer. It's the slowest growing cancer there is. And I'm like, what? What?
Yeah.
But I've heard doctors say that.
Oh,
I mean,
I mean, they told me when I was diagnosed, they're like, it's fine, you're healthy.
Well-
I'm like, oh, I have cancer.
well,
That's
I'm
not
trying to
unhealthy.
tell that to my friend now. I'm like, there's gotta be another story in this.
Yeah,
This is just one of the many misconceptions though, isn't it?
it is. It really is. It can be a huge misconception. And especially with thyroid, a lot of women will go in and say, yeah, I feel really tired. And they're like, oh, your thyroid's a little bit off, so we'll give you thyroid hormone, which is great in a temporary setting where you can say, okay, well, you need it because you're not feeling so well. It'll make you feel better. But there's something off with the thyroid, and you really got to work on that foundation and the support and really being able to help the body like get back to the normal state that it needs to be at, so
Right.
the thyroid can function normally. So
Right.
whether that's an autoimmune condition, like most thyroid is autoimmune condition.
Oh, is it? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's news.
Yeah, about 70% of all people with hypothyroidism, so low thyroid hormone, have a disease called Hashimoto's, which is an autoimmune condition that the immune system is attacking the thyroid itself. And
Wow.
it causes damage in the thyroid, and then the thyroid can't produce the thyroid hormone that it needs, so you have too little hormone.
Right. So
So-
then the body then reacts in a negative way from that as well.
Exactly.
It's like it becomes systemic.
Exactly. And
Okay.
you have inflammation all over, and then you have no thyroid hormone, you just don't feel good in general. So you get put on thyroid hormone because you don't have enough thyroid hormone, but
Right.
that's not fixing the underlying problem. The immune system is off. Or maybe the thyroid, because it's a delicate organ, is really affected by environmental toxicity. So maybe you have heavy metals, or maybe you've been exposed to some type of radiation, or
Right.
there's so many factors in our world that can play a role in this, and it's really trying to figure out,
Right.
what
Well,
it is.
as a naturopath, you're also discovering the whole world of heavy metals.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you and I could do a whole show just
Yeah.
on heavy metals.
It's true.
We say heavy metals, and most people that are listening, if you don't know what heavy metals is, we're going to make sure you have Dr. Jennifer's website here, and you can go and you can chat with her directly. But I went down the path of discovering what they are and how they affect our bodies, and what we can do to move them forward. But somewhere along the line, don't you think we actually forgot that the world we live in today was not the world we lived in 500 years ago,
Absolutely.
400, 300 years ago. There is a lot more going on. I mean, I'm
Oh.
not saying like we're living with active volcanoes, but how does this body of ours absorb this? And as a naturopath, as a doctor, what is your greatest challenge in getting your message out
In getting the message out,
about the health and natural medicine?
it's tricky because a lot of things that that you are exposed to or you do, we just don't know that much about.
Right.
We're just now starting to learn about heavy metals that have been put into
Right.
the water and the food and the air, the pollution that we eat, pesticides that are in our food and in the water that we drink. And that's been going on for years and years, and we're just now learning about this.
Right.
And now we have all this technology, wireless and cell signals and things like that. And who knows, 30 years, 40 years down the line, are
Right.
we going to start figuring out that those things are causing our problems? And
It's kind of a little common sense here, if I may.
yeah. It is.
If you have so much electricity in your body that you touch one of the cameras and blow it up, that might be telling you a little something there.
Yeah.
Not quite sure what, but it could be telling you something, right?
Yeah, it could be. And that's the thing is it's hard to talk to people sometimes about these things because it's stuff we're so used to doing every day, but we just don't know enough about it. That maybe it is like maybe these things can be harmful, or maybe we're using them too much. It's all about balance, you know.
Right.
It's all about finding that ability to, you know, use what you can, but not have an excess so that it damages the body.
And to understand what we can do to offset things. I love that you use balance. I learned that term as well, having gone down both natural and conventional medicine together. What a great marriage.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
I mean, you know, you have to find out what fits you.
Exactly.
I wanted to thank you for joining me here today, and I love that you're getting this message out there. Why don't you tell everybody your website, the best way to find out more about you,
Yeah.
and all of the things you do?
Yeah, not a problem. So I work at ARIA Integrative Medicine. That's ARIA Integrative Medicine. I'm a naturopathic doctor and acupuncturist. So we do combined modalities. We focus on autoimmune diseases, and we work with a lot of chronic illness, trying to get people back on track. I specialize mostly in thyroid and some skin diseases. My partner, Dr. Kelly Baker, who is also a naturopathic doctor and acupuncturist, she works a lot with celiac disease and food allergies, Crohn's, colitis, those types of things. But in general, we work with everyone to find a personalized treatment and a good health plan to fit them.
Well, I am so grateful that I've met you, and we're going to come by and chat with you both. I am very appreciative of the work you do. You know, and I know that autoimmune disease in women is growing faster than just about anything else on the radar right now. And it's difficult to have conventional medicines that work at the balance. So I want to thank you for taking that on, and really shining a different light for women especially, to understand not just how to get rid of a symptom, but how to heal the body.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for doing that. I have one last question for you. What is your personal message? What would you like to leave us with today?
Oh, I would like, my message to most people is just that not to forget that you are the proponent for your own health, that you are the person that knows your body the best, and you're the only one that can say, you know, this is what I need, or this is the help that I need. And so I encourage all people, men and women, to be able to go out and just take charge of their own health, to live a fuller life than they can.
Thank you so much for all that you do.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, everyone, we'll be right back.